Welcome to the Biology of Meaning miniseries with its spicy episode 8, Unmasking LDL, the supposed villain. The real hoax isn't cholesterol. Cholesterol isn't the villain. It's a vital molecule for cell membranes, sex hormones, cortisol, vitamin D, and the brain's myelin. If the body produces it, it's because it needs it. There's no such thing as a useless mistake in biology. The real hoax is isolating a marker. Dyslipidemia is presented as, you have high cholesterol, you're sick, you need medication. That's the hoax. Because a number is isolated, the subject is decontextualized, and inflammation, chronic stress, allostatic load, life history, existential conflict, and adaptive function are ignored. That's biology without biography. From a serious perspective on the biology of stress, an increase in lipids is usually an adaptive response to chronic stress. This involves producing more cortisol, which in turn increases cholesterol, a raw material produced by the body. If there is more cholesterol, it's because the body is trying to maintain a biological adaptation for survival. The body doesn't fail. It defends itself. From Hamer's perspective/biology of meaning, in many cases there is a conflict of territorial protection, a conflict of prolonged life-threatening situations, a conflict of not feeling supported materially or symbolically. The liver doesn't get sick. It enters a biological survival program. The kicker, the one-size-fits-all treatment. Statins for everyone, statins for the whole world. For life. Without investigating the cause. And that's where the serious problem arises. Muscle pain, fatigue, cognitive impairment, a possible link to neurocognitive decline. With luck, the number on the biological parameter decreases, but the person isn't cured. Because there is an undeniable physiological fact. Most cholesterol does not come from the diet. 70–80% is synthesized by the body itself, mainly in the liver, intestines, and adrenal glands. The diet provides a smaller and regulated fraction. The body adjusts its production according to need. If less is ingested through food, it produces more. If more is ingested, it produces less. This is basic physiology, not opinion. So, why does cholesterol rise? Something that modern medicine hasn't grasped, because the body needs it. The medical silence, it's not simple ignorance. Many doctors do know, but the dominant model simplifies, requires linear causality, and demands quick, protocol-driven treatments. Saying, your body produces cholesterol due to life stress, doesn't fit into a prescription, doesn't fit into a 7-minute consultation, and doesn't fit into the pharmaceutical industry. So they say, it's your diet. Lower your fat intake. Even though it doesn't explain the biological reality. The clinical paradox. People who eat perfectly, exercise, lower their fat intake, and still have high cholesterol.
Why?
Because the conflict isn't on their plate, but in their lives. Let me tell you a little more about this guy. Why are statins prescribed for prevention? Primary prevention is the most common approach in modern conventional medicine, trying to prevent diseases before they occur. The use of cholesterol-lowering medications, such as statins, is one of the strategies for preventing cardiovascular disease, even in people who have no symptoms but are in a high-risk group. Yes, it's that illogical. They have no symptoms, but we prescribe them anyway, even if they develop type 2 diabetes or another complication. The idea is that a low LDL cholesterol level could reduce the risk of heart attack and other cardiovascular diseases. This is based on the traditional model that links high cholesterol to arterial damage. However, German New Medicine, GM, challenges this view, considering that dyslipidemia, high cholesterol, is, in many cases, a natural response of the body to a biological conflict and not necessarily something that should be automatically treated with medication. The classic lipid hypothesis states, high LDL levels deposit on the arterial wall, form plaque, and cause a heart attack. This is an explanatory hypothesis, not a proven biological law like blood circulation. It has not been demonstrated that LDL alone, in any context, is a direct and sufficient cause. What is observed facts is that atherosclerotic plaques contain oxidized LDL, inflammatory cells, macrophages, scar tissue, and calcium. Plaque is an inflammatory and reparative phenomenon, not simply a fat deposit. LDL appears within a process, not as the sole cause, often as a transporter, not as the aggressor. The major logical problem: if LDL were the direct cause, everyone with high LDL would have cardiovascular disease, people with low LDL wouldn't have heart attacks, and reducing LDL would always reduce overall mortality. And that doesn't happen consistently. Correlation versus causation. What do more up-to-date approaches say? There is growing consensus that the central axis is chronic inflammation, endothelial damage, oxidative stress, metabolic dysfunction, and allostatic load. LDL participates, but it doesn't direct the process. It's like blaming firefighters for always being where there are fires. So, is it an unproven theory? The correct formulation would be LDL causes plaque, dogmatic assertion. There is a widely accepted hypothesis linking LDL to atherosclerosis, but it does not explain the phenomenon on its own. That is to say, LDL is a marker and a secondary player within a complex inflammatory process. And from the perspective of the Faro method, the West presents an incomplete hypothesis. What about vegetarians? Many studies have shown that vegetarians and vegans have a significantly lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease and yet do not have fatty plaques in their arteries, even though they may have relatively high levels of cholesterol in their blood, especially LDL.
Why?
Because cholesterol is not just a matter of quantity, but of function. A body that feeds on plants, that is free from the pro-inflammatory effects of processed meats, may be using cholesterol differently. Furthermore, a high LDL level in the context of overall metabolic health does not necessarily equate to arterial obstruction. This also reinforces the idea that cholesterol is not the only factor in the prevention of cardiovascular disease. Chronic inflammation, stress, lifestyle, and genetics play a much more complex role. Therefore, the contributions of the Faro authors are important for a new interpretation of the symptom. Hamer, tissue in the reparative phase after conflict, TCM, phlegm plus stasis due to Shun/Qi damage. Jung, defensive rigidification in the face of a prolonged threat. Wilbur, error of reducing it to a single quadrant. Plaque is not an error, it is an attempt at repair. Faro statement: LDL does not clog arteries. It participates in poorly understood repair processes. Reducing it does not equate to understanding the cause and is an essential part of the drama of life. Faro lesson: we call cholesterol bad, but the body synthesizes it with remarkable dedication. A curious physiological contradiction. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment if you wish, and share it to raise awareness. Put the Faro integral method into practice in your daily life.